started.
It's all good.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Roaring Skies. It's Friday.
How are all of you doing?
So, alright, so let's address something real quick. Sorry that we missed two tornado warnings. Was it yesterday?
I think so. There was one for Metropolis and one for Paducah.
There was one for Metropolis and Paducah, and the other was in Cahoon County, just north of St. Louis.
Yeah.
So, we apologize for not looking at that yesterday. I was asleep. I'm just going to be honest here.
So was I.
I was asleep at 7 p.m. at 4 p.m., honestly. So, anyway, with that out of the way, let's start on what.
No, it's still recording. I don't know what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I think Mason lagged out, but on today's episode of Roaring Skies, we will be talking about the Great Flood of 1993. Oh, there he is.
You literally went flood of 1993 like fast.
Yeah.
You don't have to go that fast, buddy.
No, I was just just explaining them what the episode was going to be about today. Because I think you lagged out or something, or what happened.
It made me leave.
Oh, okay.
It made me leave for a second and refresh my page, even though nothing was wrong was going on.
Oh, all right.
All right, again, we're talking about the flood of 1993 today. So,
Mm-hmm.
just to refresh everyone, the flood of 93 occurred in the 90s. Of course, it did. I mean, in the area that I live in, okay, so I'm going to give like a reference real quick.
All right.
So, so I've lived through the floods of 2016 and 19 in 2019. Those were horrific. Both
Yes, they
floods were
were. I
horrific.
remember those.
The 2016 flood, we the day before Christmas, we were told, "Hey, you need to pack your stuff and go."
I remember that day.
You need to pack your stuff and go because the river is expected to break the 93 record, was what they were saying at the time. And then the forecast changed because the Merrimack River actually crested earlier than forecasted.
Hmm.
So the river only crested then at 45.59 feet, 95 feet. I don't know. I
I
don't
can't
remember.
remember offhand.
So anyway, this is a picture from the flood of 2019 to give you guys a perspective on how
Are these
that
the ones you
looked.
told me that you took?
Yes, I took these on the levee in 2019. This was about 18 days after the crest.
I think I remember this too because there was. I think even some parts by where I live were also flooded too.
Yeah, there was part of New Athens that also was affected.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. I wish I would
Because
have took pictures.
and this gives you an idea of how the levee was in 1993.
Yeah,
Except the levee, I'm gonna real quick put my mouse. It would have been up to here.
that's horrifying.
Actually, it would be up to here because the river actually got to 49 feet. And the the levee that I live right by,
Yeah.
it's overtopped at 49.5 feet. And around here, we have one of the stronger levees.
Levees.
Yeah. Anyway, of course, we're talking about the flood of 1993 today, and I'm going to start with this one real quick. So, the Great Flood of 1993, or Great Mississippi and Missouri River Rivers Flood of 93, was a flood that occurred in the Midwestern United States along the Mississippi and Missouri rivers and their tributaries. From April to October 1993, the flood is among the most costliest and devastating to ever occur in the United States, with 50 dead and 12 to 16 billion dollars worth of damage in 93 dollars, equivalent to 23 to 31 billion dollars worth of damage in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
The hydrographic basin affected an area approximately totaling 320,000 square miles of about 745 miles in length and about 435 miles in width. Within this zone, the flooded area totaled around 30,000 square miles and was the worst such U.S. disaster since
You mean because
the
it
Great
says on here that it
Mississippi
totaled
Flood of 1927.
320,000 square miles. It says the hydrographic basin affected an area.
It says the flooded area. It says in the same article. It says the flooded area totaled around 30,000 square miles.
Okay, on this one it just says 322,000. Do you need me to pull it up or something?
What are you looking at? Wikipedia?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at.
Okay, all right.
So, I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at. So,
You want me to put it on screen for them to see?
I'm reading it out loud, and some of the pictures are not public domain,
Yeah.
so we cannot show it for that sake.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was the worst such disaster since the Great Flood of 1927, as measured by duration, area inundated, persons displaced, crop and property damage, and number of record river levels in some categories. The 1993 flood even surpassed the 1927 flood at the time, the largest flood ever recorded on the Mississippi River. Causes and progression. A volcanic winter is thought to have started with the 1991 eruption of Mount Perbuto, which is in the Philippines. It had been suggested that excess cloud condensation nuclei from the eruption were responsible for the Great Flood of 93 in the Midwest. Above normal rainfall and below normal temperatures began in the summer of 1992, resulting in above normal soil moisture and reservoir levels in the Missouri and upper Mississippi River basins. This weather pattern persisted throughout the following autumn. During the winter of 92 and 93, the regions experienced heavy snowfall. These conditions were followed by persistent spring weather patterns that produced storms over the same locations. Soils across much of the affected area were saturated by June 1st, with additional rain all run off into streams and rivers instead of soaking into the ground. Then These wet conditions contrasted sharply with the droughts and heat waves experienced in the southeastern United States. Storms persist and repetitive in nature during the late spring and summer crowded the upper Midwest with voluminous rainfall. Portions of east-central Iowa received as much as 48 inches of rain between April 1st and August 31st
It's
of
crazy.
93. And many areas across the central northern plains had precipitation from 400 to 7,502% above normal.
Oh my God.
In the St. Louis National Weather Service forecast area, encompassing eastern Missouri and southwest Illinois, including Chester and St. Louis and New Athens, the 36 river points rose above flood stage. 20 river stages were broken. The records were broken. The 93 flood broke record river levels set during the 1973 Mississippi River flood and the 1951 Missouri River flood. Civil Air Patrol crews from 21 states served more than 5,000 meals to food flood victims and volunteers, and their pilots logged more than 1,500 hours in the air inspecting utility lines and pipelines. Over 1,000 flood warnings and statements, 5 times the normal, were issued to notify the public and need-to-know officials of river levels. In such places as St. Louis, river levels were nearly 20 feet above flood stage, the highest ever recorded there in 228 years. The 52-foot high St. Louis flood wall, built to handle the volume of the Great Flood of 1844, was able to keep the flood of 93 out with just over 2 feet to spare. This flood wall was built in the 60s to great controversy out of interlocking prefabricated concrete blocks. Emergency officials estimated that nearly all of the 700 privately built agricultural levees were overtopped or destroyed along the Missouri River. Navigation on the Mississippi River and the Missouri River had been closed since early July, resulting
Hey, Mason,
in
I got a question for you.
what?
I got a picture on the National Weather Service of St. Louis, and I want to know if I can show the picture.
It has words on it. I wouldn't.
It goes waterway at the flood's peak on August 1st. More than 1 million cubic feet of water rushed past the Gateway Arch in St. Louis every second.
I mean, they're also okay. So at that rate, guys, Busch Stadium would be filled to the brim in 69 seconds.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy to think about, ain't it? Because that water would just rush in there like that.
By the way, navigation. Okay, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. Navigation on the Mississippi and Missouri rivers had been closed since early July, resulting in a loss of $2 million per day in commerce. And that's in 1993 money. Today, that would probably be upwards of 13 to 15 million.
It's insane.
Because of how inflation is. All right. We're going to talk about something controversial real quick.
What's up?
So, James Scott was a 23-year-old Illinois man. He was convicted in 1994 for intentionally causing a catastrophe and sentenced to life in prison for his role causing some flooding across the river from Quincy, Illinois, in an attempt to strand his wife on the other side of the river so he could continue partying. That's their thinking, but they don't have real evidence on it.
Yeah, because it says right here, it says James Robert Scott, who was born on November 20th, 1969, is an American who was convicted of causing a massive flood of the Mississippi River at West Quincy, Missouri, as part of the Great Flood of '93. Scott is currently serving a life sentence with parole eligible. Ele- I'm sorry, I can't work it. Eligibility in a Missouri prison.
So he's actually eligible for parole at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah, he's eligible for parole at some point, but I'm not sure when.
Okay, so um, I'm gonna continue saying this. Scott allegedly removed several sandbags from the levee holding back the water. The breach flooded 14,000 acres of farmland, destroyed buildings, and closed a bridge. His conviction was overturned in 1997 but reinstated in 1998. He maintains his innocence behind bars. Now we're going to move on to May. The Red River.
Hold on, before we do that, there's one more thing I'd like to pinpoint. I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna talk about the aftermath of it. Well,
I
no,
think
do
we
you
should.
want me to
I
save
think we
that
should
till
talk
later?
about the actual flood before we talk about aftermath.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Yeah, I just got it pulled up for whenever we talk about the aftermath.
Yeah, I think we should just talk about the aftermath and then talk about.
Yeah,
Does that
that
sound
works. Yeah, that sounds good.
good? Okay, so in May, the Red River in Mississippi, not Mississippi, Minnesota. Let me real quick reiterate: the the southern part of the lower Mississippi Valley did not experience only experienced minor flooding.
Yeah.
They did not experience the major flooding that occurred in the upper valley. I just had to say that real quick.
No, you're good.
Anyway, the Red River in Minnesota began experiencing severe flooding in May. On May 22nd, Sioux Falls, South Dakota received 7.5 inches of
Sioux Falls.
rainfall. Sioux Falls received 7.5 inches of rain in a 3-hour period. From May through July, Sioux Falls. Oh my goodness.
Sioux Falls.
I'm gonna Sioux Falls.
That's funny.
Received
Yeah, dope.
22.55 inches of rain, the wettest 3-month period in its history. June, as noted above, rains in South Dakota contributed to flooding downstream. In June, flooding occurred along the Black River in Wisconsin, with flooding also starting to occur along the Mississippi, Missouri, and Kansas rivers. Starting as early as June 7th, reports of levees being overtopped and levee breaks became common. These breaches acted to delay the flood crests, temporarily storing excess water in the adjacent lowlands, but the rain kept falling. In the beginning of June, the Missouri and Mississippi rivers dropped below flood stage and were receding. During the second week of June, the river levels rose to near flood stage before yet again beginning their slow recession. By the end of June, the Mississippi River was 4 feet below flood stage at St. Louis, while many other river regions in the locations in the region were near flood stage. Precipitation for the month averaged from 1 inch above normal in Kansas City to nearly 4 inches above normal in Springfield, Missouri. July. July brought more heavy rain to the Missouri and upper Mississippi River basins in Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Illinois, and Minnesota. Rainfall amounts of 5 to 7 inches in 24 hours were common. Precipitation for the month averaged from 1 inch above normal at St. Louis and Springfield to between 6 and 7 inches above normal at Columbia and Kansas City, Missouri. In Iowa, the floodwaters brought mass devastation. On July 9th, four buildings on Iowa State University campus flooded, resulting in $1.4 million in estimated damages and 6 weeks of construction to reopen. The college's indoor sports arena, Hilton Coliseum, was flooded with as much as 14 feet of water. From July 11th until July 22nd, the Des Moines Waterworks was flooded by the Raccoon River. This resulted in the plant being powered down, unable to provide running water for that period. On July 13th, electricity returned to more than 35,000 residents. That same day, President Bill Clinton toured Iowa's capital and neighboring cities alongside Governor Terry Branstad. He later declared a state of emergency for Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Missouri, and asked Congress to approve $2.5 billion in federal disaster relief. During this time, the Army National Guard and American Red Cross set up water stations, and the local Busch distributor contributed water in white six-packs with their logo on it. Once running water was restored, there was enough pressure for people to bathe and flush toilets, but the water was not certified potable until July 29th. That means drinkable.
Yeah.
The final usage restrictions were lifted in August. Major sandbagging activities took place along the higher Mississippi River, the River des Peres in St. Louis, the Mississippi River south of St. Louis, and many other tributaries across Missouri and Illinois. Some of these efforts were successful, while others were not. The copious rain during July sent record-setting crests down the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, causing river gauges to malfunction along the way. The record crests met within days of each other and at the confluence near St. Louis. Navigation on the Mississippi and Missouri rivers was closed in early July, of course, resulting in $2 million of loss per day in commerce. The Mississippi River levels stabilized for a few days at April 1973 record stages. When the crest from the Missouri River arrived, levels rose again. The Mississippi River broke through levees, driving people and their possessions to higher ground, and causing havoc through the floodplains. The crests, now combined as one, moved downstream through St. Louis on the way to the upper Mississippi's confluence with the Ohio River at Cairo, Illinois. Only minor flooding occurred below Cairo due to the lower Mississippi River, Mississippi's larger channel below that point, as well as drought conditions in the eastern U.S. If the Ohio River watershed had not been in drought, while the Missouri and upper were in the flood, the 1993 flood might have rivaled the 1927 flood in overall damage on the lower Mississippi beyond Cairo. And then now we're moving on to August. And this is a very, very important thing that we're about to go into. On August 1st, levee breaks near Columbia, Illinois flooded 47,000 acres of land, inundating the Illinois towns of Valmeyer and Fultz. The released water continued to flow parallel to the river, approaching the levees, protecting historic Prairie du Rocher and Prairie du Chartres. On August 3rd, officials decided to break through the stronger Mississippi River levee to allow the water back into the river. The plan worked and the historical areas were saved. Although some residential areas were flooded in counties above Prairie du Rocher. The Mississippi River at St. Louis crested at 49.6 feet on August 1st, nearly 20 feet above flood stage, which the flood stage at St. Louis is 30 feet.
Yeah.
Its peak flow rate was 1,080,000 feet cubed per second. At this rate, a bowl the size of Busch Stadium in St. Louis would be filled to the brim in 70 seconds, is what it says on Wikipedia. But on St. Louis's National Weather Service website, it says 69 seconds. And now we're going into this one. Costs and damage. Some locations on the Mississippi River flooded for almost 200 days.
Yeah.
While various regions by Missouri neared 100 days of flooding. On the Mississippi River, Grafton, Illinois recorded flooding for 195 days. Clarksville, Missouri for 187, Winfield for 183, Hannibal for 174, and Quincy for 152 days. The Missouri River was above flood stage for 62 days in Jefferson City, Missouri, 77 days at Hermann, Missouri, and for 94 days at St. Charles. On October 7th, 103 days after the flood began, the Mississippi River at St. Louis finally dropped below flood stage. Approximately 100,000 homes were destroyed as a result of the flood. 15,000 acres of farmland was inundated, and the whole towns of Valmeyer, Illinois, and Rhineland, Missouri were relocated to higher ground. So Valmeyer was moved a mile up the hill.
Yeah, it sits on a hill now, I believe.
Yeah, it sits on a hill now.
Okay.
And we know why.
Mm-hmm.
Reports in 1994 set the deaths due to the flood at 38, though this has been revised to 50 by 1996. The physical cost is estimated at $12 to $16 billion, which in today's money is 23 to 31 billion with a B, sorry, in 2024. Even after the water was gone, large amounts of sand still covered the farmland and homes. Comparison with other we don't need to do all that. So now that was the end. That was pretty much the end of that one. I may honestly do other floods too, since we have time.
Yeah.
We're gonna do now. You guys, so we're gonna do the flood of 2019.
Okay, but before we do that, Mason, I should have to say one more. I should have to. Do you care if since I have the aftermath pulled up right here, if I go ahead and mention that?
Okay, the aftermath was a lot of people were in a lot of people had lost their homes. My mom actually knew somebody that said on the news, "This is our home and we're going to stay here."
There
They
was a
didn't
lot of
stay
people who
there.
refused to leave during
They
that
didn't
during
stay.
the
They
flood.
didn't stay there. Unfortunately,
hmm
they never went back.
Because it says on here the aftermath of the Great Flood of 93 included immense human suffering, destroying over 50,000 homes, forcing 74,000 people to evacuate, causing $20 billion in damages, devastating Midwestern agriculture and transportation, but also scoring long term changes in flood mitigation, resilient community efforts, and greater awareness of floodplain management.
Okay, so that's the aftermath of the flood of not 2019. Shoot,
Of
sorry,
1993.
1993.
So you said we're talking about the one of 2019,
Yeah, we're
Tom?
about to talk about 2019 because it needs to be talked about.
All right.
So before we go anywhere into anything else, the property damage caused by this one specifically was so it so together it was $2.9 billion,
That's absolutely crazy to think about.
and that was in 2019 money. Let me see if this photo is public domain. Nope, it's not. Anyway, that's just crazy
What?
to think about how
I
this
know.
flood occurred. Anyway,
What money it cost, or how much it caused in terms of price and everything. Yeah.
so the flood, there were floods, multiple floods, because so the flood of 2019 occurred from March 2019 to December of 2019
It
because
occurred from when?
March of 2019 to December of 2019 in
Hmm.
some spots. Okay, so let me real quick rephrase how I said it. So the Missouri River was actually flooding at Kansas City from March until December.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's some records during some records actually at the some records on in 2019 were actually broken. Some records were actually broken in 2019
Yeah. Yes, they were.
on the Mississippi River, but not here.
No.
It only got to 46.5 feet, which is the second most historic flood. Oh,
Yeah. I know.
found the Mississippi River one.
No.
I found it. I found it.
You found what?
I found the so it was talking about all the floods that occurred in 2019, not just the Mississippi River. We're just going to talk about Mississippi River.
Okay.
Anyway, flooding and so during the winter, spring, and summer of 2019, at least 12 deaths and economic losses in 19 states totaled excess of $20 billion worth of damage. Estimated damage was $12.5 billion by April 2019. Flood damages totaled 6.2 billion were recorded in 11 states bordering the Mississippi River. In addition, property and crop losses and infrastructure damages. Commercial navigation on the Mississippi River was interrupted repeatedly by high currents, low bridge clearances, and closed locks. This delayed shipments of agricultural commodities, adding to the economic stress of crop loss caused by flooding. As as of late April 2019, shipments of corn to export terminals in Louisiana were 31% lower than in than the same period in 2018. Flooding across the Mississippi River was not the result of a single weather event. Instead, a series of flood events in tributary basins produced Mississippi River flooding of record duration. Flooding along the Tennessee and Ohio rivers in the winter was followed by catastrophic floods in portions of the Midwest in the early spring and record flooding across the Arkansas River in late May. While the Mississippi River floods of 2019 set records for duration and total volume, only a few locations across the Mississippi River saw record stages or flows. Now we're going into the meteorology of it.
I got the tab pulled up. Do you want me to share it so people can follow along?
Not all of it's public domain.
All the pictures are. I'll just put the pictures on screen.
So the contiguous United States recorded the wettest meteorological winter from December 2018 to February 2019 during the 1895 to 2019 periods of records. With an average of 9.09 inches of precipitation, Tennessee experienced its wettest meteorological winter, receiving 25.19 inches of precipitation. Winter precipitation ranked in the top 10 out of 124 years in 15 states within the Mississippi River Basin. Heavy rain and subsequent flooding near the end of February 2019 in the Tennessee and Cumberland River, Ohio River, and Yazoo basins increased flooding on the lower Mississippi River Valley. Sorry, Brooke texted me.
You're good.
The Yazoo River began increasing flooding on the lower Mississippi River Valley. Wetter than normal conditions persisted into the spring, with precipitation concentrated in the western and northern regions of the Mississippi River Basin. The contiguous United States recorded the fifth wettest meteorological spring during the 1895-2019 periods of records, which is March to May, with an average of 9.92 inches of precipitation. Kansas experienced its wettest meteorological spring, receiving 14.31 inches of precipitation, of which 10.51 inches fell in May. In mid-March, snow melts accelerated by heavy rain and rapidly warming temperatures resulted in catastrophic flooding in portions of the Midwest. The most extreme flooding occurred across the tributaries of the Missouri River, the largest tributary by area of the Mississippi River. The largest tributary of the Mississippi River. The 12-month period ending in April 2019 was the wettest to date during those periods of records, with an average of 36.27 inches of precipitation over the contiguous United States. Most states in the Mississippi River Basin experienced above average precipitation. In late May, much of the Midwest received over 3 inches of rain over 1 week period. Heavy rain in Oklahoma, with some parts of northeast Oklahoma receiving over 20 inches of rainfall over a 30-day period.
It's crazy,
produced
man.
Record flooding across the Arkansas River, the largest tributary of the lower Mississippi, downstream of its confluence with the Ohio River. May was the second wettest month on record over the continuous United States. Precipitating over the 12-month period ending in May averaged 37.72 inches, surpassing the record set 1 month earlier. Wetter than normal continued into June, and for the third month in a row, a new record was set for the 12-month precipitation average over contemporary. This time, precipitation totaled 37.93 inches, exceeding the previous record set in April and May by 1.66 inches and 0.21 inches, respectively. Hurricane Barry. Normally, floods on the lower Mississippi River occur in the winter and spring, and thus are unlikely to overlap with the Atlantic hurricane season. The development in early July of 2019 of the storm that would likely become Hurricane Barry briefly prompted concerns that the storm surge propagated up the Mississippi River could increase already high river stages and overtop river levees as far upstream as New Orleans. On, on July 13, 2019, Hurricane Barry came on shore as a minimal hurricane near intercoastal city, Louisiana, over 100 miles west of New Orleans. The resulting storm surge and heavy rains began increasing river stages at New Orleans from about 16 feet to nearly 17 feet. The peak stage was 3 feet below the top of the levee. The Upper Mississippi River. Multiple locations along the Upper Mississippi River experienced record flooding. At Dubuque, Iowa, the Mississippi River was above flood stage for 85 days, eclipsing the previous record of set in 2011. River stages at Quad Cities of Iowa and Illinois were above major flood stage for 51 days, exceeding the previous record of 31 days set in 2001. The river remained above flood stage for over 96 days. The crest of 22.7 feet on May 2nd, 2019 was nearly a tenth of a foot above the record stage set in 1993. Temporary flood barriers failed on April 30th of 2019, flooding portions of downtown Davenport, Iowa. In Burlington, Iowa, the Mississippi River. Oh, shoot. Accidentally clicked on a city. In Burlington, Iowa, the Mississippi rose above its banks for more than 104 days, exceeding its previous record of 41 days at major flood stage set in 1993. The peak river stage of 23.5 feet was the fourth highest on record. On the afternoon of June 1st, a temporary barrier failed, forcing evacuation of multiple businesses in a 4 to 5 block area of downtown Burlington. At Hannibal, the crest of 30.2 feet on June 1st was surpassed only by the record stage of 31.8 feet in 1993. The Pin Oak Levee in Lincoln County, Missouri, overtopped in the early hours of Sunday morning, June 2nd, and breached that afternoon. Approximately 250 people were forced to evacuate as flooding threatened or isolated about 150 homes in Winfield, Missouri, and surrounding areas. Middle Mississippi River Valley. The Mississippi River crested at 45.9 feet on June 8th in St. Louis, the second highest crest stage on record. The record crest of 49.6 feet was set in 1993. The Mississippi River at Chester crested above flood stage 3 times during 2019. The third crest of 46.5 feet on June 10th was exceeded only by the record stage of 49.6 feet recorded during the flood of 1993. Lower Mississippi River. River stages at many locations along the lower Mississippi River exceeded flood stage between December 2018 and February 2019 and remained a flood stage throughout late summer. The duration at Greenville, Mississippi and Red River Landing, Baton Rouge, exceeded the record set by the Great Mississippi River flood of 1927. The Red River landing gauge was above flood stage for 226 days, from December 28, 2018 through August 10th of 2019. Baton Rouge was above flood stage for 211 days, from January 6th of 2019 through August 4th of 2019. At Vicksburg, Mississippi, the Mississippi River was above flood stage for the longest period since 1927. In May 2019, the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks reported that 7 wildlife management areas had been flooded since January, some inundated by 15 feet of water. Over water year 2019, the annual mean river discharge at Memphis, Tennessee was 1,001,000 cubic feet per second. The highest value in the 1933 to 2019 period record and almost twice the long-term average. Monthly river discharges exceeded the long-term average for each month in the water year and set new records in October and November of 2018 and June of 2019. The peak discharge of 1,730,000 cubic feet per second recorded on the 4th of March 2020 was almost 88% of the record discharge during the Great Flood of 1937. At Vicksburg, the tributaries and flows from the St. Francis River, St. Francis, White, Arkansas, and Yazoo rivers increased the annual mean discharge to 1,211,000 cubic feet per second. This means discharge was equal to an annual water volume of 877 million acre feet, or 359 cubic miles. 259, cubic miles. Flow diversions at the Old River Control Structure reduced the mean annual discharge at Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to 949,000 cubic feet per second, which was approximately 60% greater than the average discharge of the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico, which is now called the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
This mean discharge during the water year 2019 was equal to the annual volume of 687 million acre feet, or 203 cubic miles, which, by the way, I was describing the stream flow. I don't know if we should be talking about that or... Okay,
Your
so...
audio's kind of cutting out again, bud. Can you speak up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Okay, does it sound better now?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so, I think that's all the information we have on these floods, actually.
All right, and I'm sorry I didn't talk during that a whole lot. I was just letting you do your thing because this is something that, quite frankly, I haven't studied a whole lot before. So, hey, I let you talk because this is something you've studied before. I was just chiming in, throwing pictures and random facts here and there.
Okay. I just had a random I just had a random video going on of a white screen so I don't have to turn on this light.
All right.
So that's why that's it. That's how it is. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this episode of Roaring Skies. This is one of our shorter episodes, but
But still, thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune in, and we appreciate all the support.
all right. Bye guys.
Be safe.